Welcome into Tennessee Titans today. If you are a true Titans fan and you want Tennessee to make the playoffs this year, then like the video. We have the science to back it up. The more likes we get, the more likely it is the Titans will make the playoffs this year. So help make that a reality. Like today's video right now. We're going to begin today's rumors roundup with some Derrick Henry conversation. Both ESPN and Sports Illustrated said that Henry has begun to show some signs of decline. Henry is now 29 years old, and the historic shelf life of backs that age, isn't the best, if we're being honest. And from a raw numbers perspective, they have dipped. What I want to get into today is how much of that is actually on Derrick Henry and how much of that is on the offensive line or the supporting cast around him, which is a part of a bigger conversation about like running backs and their value in general. But we're just on that first part today. The RBs matter or don't matter stuff's a conversation, a longer one for a different day. Henry ran for 1,500 yards last year, which is still friggin' awesome. But his numbers have declined the past 2 years. He was averaging 5.1, 5.4 yards per carry. Those averages dipped to 4.3 and 4.4 in 2021 and in 2022. Now, what ESPN pointed to was rush yards over expected, RYOE, which is it's an NFL next-gen stat that looks at, okay, this is how it's blocked, here's how much the player should get, how much more did they get or how much less did they get. So it tries to take the offensive line out of it as much as you possibly can. And Henry's numbers have dipped. Now, they did not do what I did, and that is give you where it ranked previously. 2018, 2019, 2020, he was top 2 at worst. 2021, he dipped to 23rd, only 11 yards over expected. 9th in 2022, which is actually still pretty good. And I think Henry played better this past year. That also is in line with his average per carry, which certainly makes some sense. So that is regression from being the best to, hey, only top 10, which is still valuable, don't get me wrong. There is some flaw still involved with rushing yards over expected. And as much as you can try to take the offensive line out of it, you can't always do that. And my example that I like to use here is if it is a toss to the right, just as an example, and not just one blocker gets beat, but if 2 or 3 of them get beat, well, the rushing yards over expected is still going to be like -3 for that. Like you're just going to lose yards. And it's not realistic to expect your back to make 3 tackles at once. Now, if only one player gets through the offensive line, well, then the rush yards is still probably going to be -3. Maybe it's only -2 or -1 at that point. But a player like Henry would be able to maximize it more than others because it's only one player to beat instead of 3. So if your offensive line is really, really bad, there's only so much the back can do. And I would argue last year the offensive line was really, really bad in Tennessee. And I don't think that will be the case this year. I still think Derrick Henry is a really good football player, and I think that the upgrades, Andre Dillard, Peter Skoronski, Daniel Brunskill, hoping for growth from others, can lead to some more upward regression. Because Henry was bad in 2021 in rushing yards over expected. He got better last year. He could get better again this year. So with that in mind, what is your concern level? We'll spend some more time on this here in depth. But what is your concern level over Derrick Henry? This is going to be today's pinned comment. So if the ad plays here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there. 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. I'm at like maybe a 2 or a 3. There is some reason to be concerned about running backs. And I will make note that Derrick Henry in the final year of his contract, a deal that's been better than most running back contracts. Pretty much everyone else who has gotten paid in this generation of backs either been traded like a Christian McCaffrey, has been cut like a Dalvin Cook, or has been subject to, maybe we'll cut him, maybe we won't. Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara got suspended. I still think the offensive line as a unit from left tackle to right tackle were the bigger issues this past year for Tennessee. But running backs do scare me still a little bit. The age and the massive workload Derrick Henry has handled is concerning. At a certain point, his body will break down. Now, maybe he can be the outlier, the Adrian Peterson, who has a longer shelf life than most backs. And frankly, I would argue, given the unbelievable workload for Derrick Henry, like last year's carry volume is some backs 2 years carry volume. Like that's how high his usage rate is. So he's already beat that number. But their shelf lives are short. That is something worth monitoring in terms of just how much more does Henry really have left in the tank. But for this year, keep feeding him the rock. Now, the 4th of July is almost here, so get your Titans USA-themed T-shirts on sale for a limited time only. Chatsports.com/TitansUSA. Links in the comment section and the description of today's show. Let's talk Caleb Farley here. Sports Illustrated looked at where Farley sits entering what really is a critical third year of his NFL career. I loved Farley coming out of Virginia Tech. At one point, he was my highest rated corner over the likes of a Patrick Surtain. Now, that changed after the back injury. That's why he fell to where Tennessee was drafted. And unfortunately for Farley, he has been completely unable to stay healthy. We'll get to that in a little bit here. But it is getting close to now or never for him. And I was a bit troubled by this recent quote from Mike Vrabel on Caleb Farley. He's working hard, coach says. Caleb's lifting hard. He looks strong. He's healthy again. He had a procedure, a back procedure, and those come along at different times. Now, look, Mike Vrabel hates giving out injury information, but that kind of perked my ears up and went, maybe he still needs some more time, which is fine. It was a back surgery. Farley's injury history, unfortunately, is troubling. Torn ACL at Virginia Tech in 2017 as he made the move eventually from wide receiver to corner. Missed 2 games in 2019, November/December, due to back spasms, which was the precursor for the real issues as of late. In 2020, he opted out of due to COVID concerns, which at the time actually made more sense for Farley after happening to his mother tragically. So that one was more understandable. Plus, he was a first-round pick anyway, so it was fine. Then in March of 2021, he had a back surgery, a microdiscectomy, which is the same surgery that Tiger Woods has had a few times and is a big-time red flag. He comes back, he tears his ACL in October, so a second torn ACL, and a second back surgery in November of 2020. Those are all massive red flags because Caleb Farley is 24 years old. He's had 2 back procedures and 2 knee surgeries by age 24. Those normally don't get better, and it's a real concern for me. So is Caleb Farley, tragically, unfortunately, and sadly, already a bust? This is your chance to sound off. Please be honest with me. Y for yes, N for no. Do you think Farley, you can already write him off as a bust? I don't want to. Again, I really liked Farley coming out of Virginia Tech. He had everything I like. Speed, size, length, ball skills, checked off all my boxes for corners. But there is plenty of concern so far over the course of his NFL career. The just unfortunate reality of his body failing him, kind of like Jason Verrett, is a huge concern. He's played in 12 games, and he has 14 tackles. He's 1 pass breakup. That's bad production for a first-round pick. Injuries withstanding, that's not a good thing. And Tennessee has protected themselves with their draft picks at corner. They had Christian Fulton, who I love, when he's healthy. They spent a second-round pick last year on Roger McCreary. Elijah Molden might finally be healthy as well. Injury's just a problem for this team for whatever reason. They signed Sean Murphy Bunting in particular. If everyone's healthy, you could see Caleb Farley still being corner 5. They have protected themselves about Farley, and now he's just a bonus, whatever he can contribute this year at the cornerback spot. Now, if you guys love the Titans, make sure you are subscribed. We've got more free videos for you all throughout the week. Training camp, just under a month away now. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out on anything right here at Tennessee Titans Today. Let's talk free agency. Could the Tennessee Titans bring back Joshua Kalu? SB Nation pitched that, and I don't mind it. They argue that Tennessee's thin in the safety room, which is accurate. We'll get to Elijah Molden conversation as part of this here in a little bit. Kalu played a decent amount down the stretch last year for Tennessee. They were really thin. They were banged up, and he was kind of a hybrid starter for Tennessee at the safety spot. And despite getting starting reps, he's had no real free agency buzz so far. It has been very quiet on him. There's been not much buzz of, this team's interested or this team's going to sign him or whatever, which is interesting. So would you bring him back? We'll spend some more time on the pros and cons here, but would you re-sign Kalu? S for sign, P for pass. Go vote for me. I'm curious what you guys have to say since you guys have just as good as feel as anyone else does. Go vote right now. The numbers don't look that bad, right? 42 tackles, 5 PBUs, 1 interception, 1 forced fumble. What is interesting is I thought he actually was a really good run defender last year, and he brings you special teams value too, which matters. I didn't love him in coverage. He did break up 5 passes, and safety coverage numbers can be kind of dicey from that perspective, but 5 pass breakups is all that he broke up. And there were no, incomplete passes beyond that. It was 22 of 27. That's kind of a high ratio there, but the interception was at least nice. Now, the safety room beyond Kevin Byard and Demond Hooker is thin. I do think there's a chance that Elijah Molden ends up playing kind of a hybrid nickel corner safety role. So maybe if Molden is your safety 3/corner 4, you actually end up in decent shape at this spot.